Hi, this is Bob from BobTheSoundGuy.com, and today we're going to discuss pedals, guitar effects. And the main thing about guitar effects pedals is certain pedals and effects do certain things, like with signature sounds. One of my favorite songs is Unchained by Van Halen. There's a signature riff in the very beginning that is very distinctive. And there's a certain effect used on that. It's called a phase pedal. It's made by MXR. It's called the Phase 90. Other pedals, other effects include distortion, overdrive, delay, reverb, chorus, which makes a guitar sound like two guitars. There's also what's called an octave pedal, and what that does is it brings the tone down either one or two octaves. Classic case example of that would be Fool in the Rain by Led Zeppelin. The guitar solo, that is an octave pedal was used on that solo. So if you want to hear what an octave pedal sounds like, take a close listen to that song. There's also what's called a flanger pedal. And what the flanger was used for originally, studio engineers, when they had their tape reels, there was a flange on the tape reel that would slow it and raise the pitch of the tape and create this phasing sound, this crossing phasing. It sounds almost like airplanes, like. But then what they did was they took that particular effect and turned it into a guitar effect. Classic case example of that is the song Barracuda by Heart. The very first opening riff of that that's what's called a flange pedal. So what I'm going to show you guys today is a few of my favorite pedals that I like. It's two different ways of going about this, two different schools of thought. My particular school of thought is get a separate pedal box for each effect that you're looking to go for. Okay. Some manufacturers make what's called a multi-effects pedal. It's usually a digital thing, and they try to cram like hundreds of different effects into one pedal, what's called a pedal board. It'll have 4 or 5 different little pedals on it. It'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe it sucks the tone completely out of your guitar. Now, there's one pro to that is that they're relatively cheap. For a couple $100, you can buy something with 100 effects in it. My personal route is you buy 1 or 2 or 3 very, very good effects pedals. Save up. They're going to be anywhere between $100 to $250 per effect. But what you get is the pure effect. And it doesn't, the tone and the signal do not have to go through 100 different little resistors, capacitors, and circuit boards and all sorts of stuff to get to the particular tone that you're looking for. Usually on one of those multi-effects pedals, the tone is quite watered down on a certain effect. Where on something like this, if you learn how to use 2 or 3 really good effects, then your tone won't be watered down, and you can pretty much blend in whatever you want. Here's a couple examples. You want to bring the camera a little closer. Okay, what I like, you want to bring this down closer here. I have in my pedal board, and this is a special pedal board that I had made, and it's made out of solid aluminum. Another thing you're going to find with multi-effects pedals, the difference between something like this and the multi-effects pedals. The multi-effects pedals are usually plastic, and they break quite easily, and they're just not very durable. With one of these are all in solid metal housings, and if you feel the weight of these are probably close to a pound a piece, where you could literally throw it at a car windshield and it will break the windshield. So for me, and once again, you use them, you stand on them, and if you're in the middle of a gig and you're all of a sudden ready to rip on your solo and you go to stomp, you know darn well that stuff made out of metal is not going to break, as opposed to something that's made out of plastic, where, you know, and I like to wear big shoes and, you know, stomp on them. they're gonna hold up. So anyway, the first pedal that I use is not actually an effects pedal, it's actually a tuner pedal. What it does, I'll turn it off, and you can hear its sound is coming through. But what it'll do is when you go to tune, because you don't want to hear tuning while you're on stage, it'll actually mute the signal, and then you can tune without anybody in the audience hearing. And you'll see the display come up of what I've got going. I'm just a little out of tune, but that's alright, that's what the tuner pedal is for. And you'll see, as how I described in the bass video, how it works. Works the same for guitar. This pedal, you can either do guitar or bass. Okay? Now, so the first effect I'm going to show you guys is what's called an overdrive effect. And I get that from the Ibanez, what's called the Ibanez TS9. It's a very classic pedal. Stevie Ray Vaughan used the TS9 quite a bit in his playing. You can, anytime you listen to a Stevie Ray Vaughan album, you will hear a TS9. And TS9 stands for, well, Tube Screamer. It's the Ibanez Tube Screamer. Now they have reissued it, so there are newer. I like the older ones because it has the original chip in it. That gives it that particular overdrive sound that is quite coveted. So what I'm going to do is just show you, I'm going to turn it off first. So all my pedals are off completely. Alright? So I'm just going to give you... Turn on the overdrive, and I usually leave this on all the time. Gives that little extra bite. Okay, sounds a lot more bitey, a lot more gritty, a lot more angry. You can also leave that on and do some, you know. Okay. So what I'm going to add, the next effect, since I use a lot of tube amps, and a lot of the classic tube amps do not have reverb, so what I do is I add an echo pedal, which is the Dan Echo pedal. I like the way it colors the sound. Some people say I don't like the way some pedals, they color their tone, but some pedals do color the tone in a very good way. So, and you'll hear this. So that would be... Okay. So I usually, my tone, I leave those two on all the time. Because you can, then you can have a little less overdrive just by turning your guitar up and down. For solo work, what I do is I add a distortion pedal. And the way I have these on here is up here, I leave the pedals on that I have on all the time up here, so I'm not going over top. The pedals that I turn on and off all the time, I have down at the bottom so they're easy to get to. So I add a distortion on top of that. Adds a little boost. So that's your good distortion sound. Now, I added the MXR carbon copy pedal. And what that is, that's an analog delay. And some of the music that I do requires very ethereal things. This is what's called a true bypass pedal, meaning it won't color the sound. You can put 100 pedals in front of it, and that could be the last in your chain, and it won't color the sound one bit until you turn it on. Okay, so I'll turn that on, and you can hear it'll have. Here, I'll just. Okay. Here, I'll just kind of go on and go on and go on. So those are some of my favorite pedals. I hope you learned a few little tidbits. So this is Bob the Sound Guy saying rock on, rock your face off.